G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, relatively recently I've been doing some home casting of brass. I built a new metal melting furnace out of an old gas cylinder, and it works pretty damn good. And so this is all home cast brass from its out of the tube state, partly machined, more machining, fully machined, and as you can see it's turned out pretty good. I've got it pretty well sorted now. I know how to do it, and the main thing is really to just get the brass as molten and as runny as you can possibly get it, you know, as hot as you can get it. And when it's super runny, well, then it will pour better and you'll get nice brass like that without any flaws in it. See, that's got some little blemishes there on one end, but the bulk of it's pretty good. So yeah, that's the trick. Get it as runny as possible. It goes like water. It's different to aluminium. Aluminium, you want to pour it as soon as it goes molten. Don't go too hot. Don't get it red hot, whatever you do. With brass, it's just the opposite. You go as hot as possible. You know, if it goes red hot, well, who cares? And it'll then pour properly and you won't get voids. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I've got all this brass. And of course, once you've got the brass, you've got to do something with it. And I looked at my brass stock to see what I've got, and I'll show you what I've got. So I've got this, and I've got this stuff. And this is all brass that Alan from Retro Steam Tech in the UK sent me, which I'm greatly indebted to him for. And this bit as well, it's a bit of tubing, a bit of round stuff. And this is what you would use for making a steam boiler. So I've made various model engines over the years, steam engines and Stirlings, and you know, that's the thing. If you've got a lathe, you know, you get a lathe, you learn how to use it, teach yourself how to use it if you haven't had any experience, and you make some tooling, you know, make up tooling. That's a good way to use your lathe, and then you repair a few things, you know, and then you're thinking, well, what can I do? And I've run out of things to do. Well, not really. The next step is to make some model engines, really test yourself out, see how good you really are. You know, are you with, you know, you talk the talk and you walk the walk. So this is the next thing. Test yourself out, because when you make model engines of any description, the tolerances have got to be spot on. You can't afford to have air leaks and things like that. And yeah, it's a good learning curve, it's a good test. And if it doesn't work out, well, have another go until you get it right. You know, I'm diverging again. So this is the brass that I've had, you know, I've got. Oh, and a little bit more too. I'll show you some other stuff. Here's some more that I bought. This is stuff from Banggood Brass. I actually bought that with my own cold hard cash. A bit more there. A bit more there. So yeah, the Banggood Brass is okay. It's not as good a quality as some brass. It's because brass varies a lot, you know, and some's got just more copper in it than others, I think. And so that's my total. Oh, hang on, then I've got a bit of square stuff. That was an old tool holder that I got with some gear, solid brass, and then you got stuff like brass water pipe, which you can always play around with and make stuff out of. So that's pretty much most of my brass that I've got. So it's just itching to make another model engine, isn't it? And I'll show you my bits and pieces box that I have for model making, and I've got other brass and various things in there that you can, you know, quite often you can repurpose. You might have try to make an engine and it didn't work, or, you know, it does fail, you strip it down and then you use the bits to make another engine, you know. So this is what you do. You don't sort of, you know, melt it all down, and you might be able to reuse some of it. So I'll show you the toolbox I've got with some bits in it. So here's an old toolbox I've got, and it's got the bits and pieces in there. And here's the lid that goes into the tray, and it's got lots and lots of stuff there. I'll come in close and you have a look. So here we got a whole lot of brass pipe fittings, fuel line fittings, air fittings from who knows where. And then you got shafts and bits and pieces I've had left over. There's a cylinder mounting block, a vertical one. There's a cylinder that was off of a Sterling I didn't get right. There's a whole lot of stainless steel and brass rods in there, and steam pipe, and up here we've got pistons left over, oil, whoops, metho pots. So you save all these bits and pieces and you reuse them, you know, if you can, work them into what you're doing. Because when I make engines, I never go from plans. I have made them from plans in the past, but I find it a bit boring, really. There's no challenge there, really. Well, not as much of a challenge as if you just do your own thing. Plus, if you do your own thing, you can use up whatever you've got. You don't have to get the specific size stuff. You can just use any old crap you got laying around, and you can build an engine out of it, you know, which is what I do, and that's why a lot of my engines look like something from Heath Robinson, but that's good. I like that Heath Robinson look. And if you don't know who Heath Robinson is, look it up in Wikipedia. Very famous guy. Okay, so that's the tray. Now we'll look in the tin, in the toolbox itself. So here's the toolbox, and there's all sorts of stuff in here. Electric motor with a gear on it. Another electric motor out of an old drill with a gearbox on it. We might better use that for something. Various bits of aluminium and brass and bearing housing, and steel wool, and all sorts of gear. So, yeah, these are basically all the bits I use for model engine making. Okay, let's move on. Now, one of the engines I've built over the years is a steam engine using a rotary valve configuration, and that's this one here. And the original plan had a feed line and a return line, but I modified it, and I've just got the one line doing both feed and return. And once again, there's that Heath Robinson look, and it turned out pretty nice, built with just bits and pieces. I'll fire it up, we'll see it run. It's pretty satisfying when you can build an engine and see it run, and see it run well. I mean, that's just ticking over beautifully on minimum air pressure. So that's how you want to build them. That's a good engine. And once again, that was all done without any plans whatsoever, just a concept. You just take a concept and you work on the concept. And yeah, if you machine it right, it should go. Okay, now from there I went to another version of the rotary valve engine, so I'll show you that one next. Okay, so here's the next incarnation, and this one's vertical. Once again, it uses the same setup with the feed and return pipe being the one unit. Once again, built up out of junk, well, scrap. So we'll fire this one up. So there she goes. She's a honey, eh? Once again, Heath Robinson would be proud of me. Okay, moving on. But that wasn't challenging enough. I wanted something more interesting, something unique. So I built this. This is a steam engine built out of a spark plug. Once again, it's a rotary valve engine, but in this case, there's no feed to the spark plug that you can see. So how can it possibly run? We'll hook it up and we'll see if it does run. Yep, she runs. Bit of an air leak down here. But yeah, beat that. So how does it run? Well, if you go back to my original video on it, you'll see. And I'll leave it at that. But once again, it is a rotary valve engine, and it's exhausting out of the end of the crankshaft, as all rotary valve steam engines that I've built do. Okay, we'll stop in a minute. So, where to from there? So, I was just sort of toying with the idea of doing another Stirling, and I got an email from a guy, one of my viewers, and I think he's in the UK, and he's another Rob, just like me. And he actually emailed me and sent me some photos of a rotary valve steam engine that he built, modelled on the original one I first showed you. But he made it double acting, so it's basically, he's a single acting. He made his double acting and he did a beautiful job with it. Here's some photos of it, and you can see for yourself. Yeah, he did a great job. So I was toying with the idea of doing the same thing, you know, making another different one, because I like to go different every time I do something. And I'm thinking, yeah, double acting, that's not a bad idea, I could do that. And not a lot more to do really, just have to seal this end of the cylinder. And then I was thinking, thinking about the brass I had down there, what I would need to do the job, and I was thinking I really could go one step further with this whole setup. And I mean, this is running on compressed air, but it will run on steam. All of these will run on steam. They're steam capable, but of course you've got to build a boiler. And I was thinking, well, I've only got enough brass for one more boiler. I mean, that's this bit here. And I was thinking, how would it be if I incorporated a rotary valve engine and put the piston, the cylinder, the actual cylinder itself, in the boiler, rather than have the boiler remote out here. Basically, have the piston and cylinder in the boiler. So basically, that there would be in here, and then it's just a matter of hook up the feed lines, and you could actually just have this bit here mounted on the end of the cylinder of the boiler here, and basically have a standalone unit with without a need for a base plate. I mean, it obviously has to stand on a base of some sort, but that's you could. I reckon Alan had something similar on one of his videos where they might have either had the cylinder mounted on the outside of the boiler, or maybe they had it in the boiler. I can't remember, but I think that's a pretty good candidate for another experimental engine. So we move all of that inside of the boiler, and then have the conrod coming out onto a rotary valve unit, which would then be mounted on the end of the boiler as well. So your boiler length would probably only be from here to here, because you've got to have enough room for the conrod to do its thing. So it would basically be mounted like that. That's the thing I'm thinking of. That's the concept. That's the plan. And once again, it's another challenge, and the end product should be pretty unique looking. And yeah, that's where I'm headed, guys. That's what I'm thinking. So I'll just have to work out the spacing. I mean, if I can't get the rotary valve to fit properly, I mean, you have to put that cylinder off centre to allow for your rotary valve, because it's going to be a single-sided crank, and you've got to have enough room for the whole rotary valve to fit in. If worst comes to worst, I'll have to mount the cylinder outside of the actual boiler itself. So just have them bonded together. Do it that way. Yeah, I've got to go into this in depth and take a few measurements and just work out how it's all going to come together, but I think it's doable. And even if it means the rotary valve unit's got to hang out one way a bit, one side, as long as you can get that cylinder in there, that would do the job. All very interesting. Okay, well, that's it for now. Stay tuned. I've been thinking, and I'm thinking this is going to be an interesting little project, and provided the weather holds out and it's not too damn cold, I might, get on with it. But that's the plan. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you next time. Cheers.